basically got chewed out pretty hard by the general manager after that, and they're like, you never are allowed to do that again. You will not be invited back.
I appreciate the hospitality here, Montez.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, man.
I just want to say you have phenomenal hospitality skills, welcoming new people you haven't had in your apartment or studio. And, I walked in, I feel comfortable right away. So once again, I appreciate you hopping on as well.
Absolutely, man. Mi casa, su casa. Don't forget that.
So for those listening, I'm here with Edgar Montoya, also known as Montez Beatz. You might better know him as that is his DJ name. Before I want to go on with your story, I want to give a shout out to DJ Buzz for suggesting this episode and giving me his contact info and making this all happen. So shout out to you, Buzz.
Yeah, shout out DJ Buzz. That's my homie. That's my dog. That's one of the first DJ friends I really got acquainted with, and somebody I consider a close friend to this day.
So now, for those listening, as I said just now, they might know you as a local bar DJ, whether it's in Omaha or Lincoln or even Kearney, very similar to Buzz. And what I like to do is, with these interviews, is I like to get to know you, who you are behind the not behind the DJ set, but off the DJ set when you're not at a venue. Mm-hmm. I would like to know what your true self is when you're not being a DJ. So starting off with that, what was growing up like? Did you grow up in Nebraska at all?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I grew up in Nebraska, born in Nebraska through and through. I was born and raised in Ralston, Nebraska, up in Omaha. So I lived there from my birth up until the age of 18, did my entire schooling at Ralston through the Ralston school system. And then when I graduated high school, I moved to Lincoln, where I attended the University of Nebraska-Lincoln studying business management. So I did my 4 years there, did my undergrad there, graduated in May of 2021 by the grace of God, and decided to, start my professional career there. I was familiar with the systems, the processes there, and I had a pretty unique attachment to the college, so it was a very seamless transition for me. And I've been there. I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary next month of working at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So,
what exactly do you do there?
Yeah, man. So I initially started off as the recruitment coordinator for the College of Business, which essentially means I would meet with high school students and their families, be it them visiting the campus or us going out to the high schools and meeting them where they're at, just to essentially introduce and showcase our offerings, what the College of Business had to offer, what the university as a whole had to offer, and really trying to sell the idea or the prospect of a 4-year degree to these kids. So I did that for my first year, and then I transitioned into the DEI space. For those that don't know, DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which at its core is really all about making sure everybody and anybody feels welcome, heard, valued, and like they have a place here in Nebraska, regardless of their background, regardless of their belief system. So it's something that's near and dear to me as the type of person I am. And so I create programming around DEI. I work with one of our first year retention programs named the Inclusive Business Leaders. So we, select these students at the high school level that have a particular interest or desire to learn more about DEI as it applies to business. And we offer them a scholarship, a mentor, and specialized curriculum around DEI issues within the world of business.
Did you see yourself working at your own university after you graduated?
Not at all. In fact, I didn't see myself working in higher ed, period. But, and not to go off on a tangent here, but COVID basically took up my senior year of college and kind of derailed my plans. I was supposed to actually move to KC, Missouri, right after graduating, but because of the pandemic and because of the just strenuous, impact it had on me and my mental health at the time, I was really just focused on getting through, the present moment, getting through school and graduating. And so I wasn't even thinking ahead to what was going to come next or what I wanted to do next. I didn't have the mental bandwidth to even think about that at the time. So all I was focused on was getting out of there. And so we got out of there, thankfully there. I was during that summer after graduating, I was in a bit of a rut, trying to figure out where to go from here, what to do now. I'd been in school my entire life. So it was the first time I was really truly on my own, with no formal system or support. And ultimately, decided that working at the university was in my best interest, just to, kickstart my career, build up some valuable transferable skills, expand my network even further, and it was definitely the best decision I could have made at the time.
Did you enjoy your 4 years as a student at UNL?
Yeah, I did. For the most part, I enjoyed my 4 years. And as they say, hindsight is 20/20. So if I could go back in time, there are a few things I would have done differently. But in the grand scheme of things, I think I did do a really good job at maximizing my time in college through my involvements. I was in a few different clubs and organizations throughout my 4 years. I was really adamant about getting outside my comfort zone in college, probably for the first time in my life, and I definitely did just that. And college is also where I really was able to leverage my DJ career into something that was initially just a bedroom hobby into something more serious, something that's now a secondary source of income and another passion. And so, yeah, I think I did college right, but as always, there's some things I would have done differently.
Before you went to UNL for college, what was growing up like with your family in Ralston?
Yeah. So growing up in Ralston was a unique place in that it was a town within Omaha, like in the smack middle, but it was very much a community of its own, right? Everybody kind of knew everybody, generations upon generations that kind of stuck around in that city, in that town, and so there was there was a great sense of community there, which was cool to experience. In particular, regarding my family, I was actually the first person in my family to go to college and obtain a college degree. Neither of my parents nor my older sibling did, and so, that was something that was difficult in a lot of different ways because I didn't really have, as a first generation college student, I'm sure others who are first generation can relate. I didn't really have a good support system in doing that and attaining that degree because they didn't really know what it all entailed, right? And so there wasn't really much they could do there. But I'd say all in all, we had a great life growing up. We had everything we needed and then some. So yeah.
Before you were DJ, like in high school and in college, what were your hobbies back then?
Yeah, back in high school, some of my favorite things to do so I was part of the tennis team. Played baseball my entire life up until the age of 14 when I threw out my arm. And unfortunately, that was the end of that because I was more of a pitcher and a defensive player than I ever was a hitter. So, it was fun while it lasted. But no, baseball was essentially my identity my entire life from the time I started playing at 5, playing t-ball, up until, again, about freshman year of high school. In high school, I was pretty heavily involved in DECA, which is probably the most impactful organization I was a part of in high school. It's this business club, if you're familiar with it. So I, went to state all 4 years, went to national senior year in Anaheim, California. Still the first and only time I've been in Cali, and I definitely want to go back. But yeah, I was very much a studious kind of kid. Always had my head in the books. Always strived to be excellent in the classroom, and took a lot of pride in that. So that consumed most of my time. I'd say was the academic side of things.
In DECA, you learned a lot of business skills, obviously, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did that eventually help you out in the DJ world?
Oh yeah. I mean, DECA was my first taste of what a business curriculum entails and what it could do for me in my future. And so I think that by being given that opportunity and seeing what all career opportunities existed, what all I can do with it, and business is something that I feel like has always kind of been my natural call and something that I've always just kind of it just came to me easily, if that makes sense. Back when I was like 10 or 11, I started umpiring actually through our Ralston Baseball Association. So that's when I started making my first real couple paychecks at the ripe age of 10 or 11. So I was always an entrepreneur. I was always a hustler, finding unconventional ways to make money, be it going to Goodwill on Saturday mornings and finding, collectibles and odds and ends to resell on eBay, or camping out overnight at the Foot Lockers and the finish lines to get the newest pair of Air Jordans and then flipping those on eBay. So before I could even legally hold a job, I was finding ways to go get it, go get paid. So yeah.
What music did you listen to back then growing up?
Music that I listened to back then, I was heavily influenced by my older brother and whatever it is he was listening to at the time. So that consisted mainly of rap and hip hop in all of its entirety. Some notable artists, Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Fabulous, Eminem, all the early 2000s, late 2000s OGs. You got T-Pain, Lil Jon. That was all I was listening to on my iPod Nano there.
What music do you listen to now, would you say?
Yeah, so my music tastes have definitely evolved over the years. I actually rarely listen to hip hop and rap now, and more so because nowadays I really am drawn towards music that speaks to me or is in some way relatable or has some form of substance. And not that all rap and hip hop lacks that, but a good chunk of it does, right? So primarily nowadays I'm listening to a lot of EDM of all types. I love house, trance, techno, rhythm, anything EDM. That's probably the genre I listen to the most in the community. I'm involved in a lot by going to festivals, talking to others about it. And as well as, country for when I'm just kind of kicking back on a Sunday afternoon outside, enjoying a cup of coffee, classical, really just about anything. And I still sprinkle in a little, rap and hip hop there, but I'd say 90% of my library is EDM.
Who's the number one artist you'd say you listen to right now?
The number one artist I listen to right now, his name is 4B. He is a Jersey DJ, so he produces a type of music known as Jersey Club, which, are you familiar with that at all?
I'm not familiar. If you would like to talk a little bit about that, I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah, so Jersey Club, it has this sort of hop to it. Like it's got this sort of energy to the beat, and it's got a certain drum pattern that is always, consistent no matter what kind of Jersey song it is. It's hard to describe, but it goes like dun 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 dun. Like it's kind of like bouncy, if you will. But it's just very high energy, great like club, great dancing music. And that's the kind of music I'm kind of moving towards and more interested in terms of playing when I'm DJing and producing even. So that's, 4B is the guy. I've seen him twice now, once in Denver and another time in KC, and I want to see him again.
You said you've gone to EDM festivals already, right? And you're going to a couple here in the future?
Yes, sir.
So I've seen clips off of TikTok and YouTube and even like news stations. I want to get like your perspective. Like, what is going to that like? Because all I just can imagine is just your ears hurting after the festival and then just a lot of like visuals on the board. So what's that like?
Yeah. So there's this phrase in the EDM community that's well known, and it's PLUR, and it's an acronym, and it stands for peace, love, unity, and respect. And so that's kind of at the core of what it is or what it ought to be. It's not always the case, but what's different about an EDM show or a festival than like a rap or hip hop show is that at an EDM show, you can wear anything and everything you want. You can act and dance however you want, and there is typically zero judgment. If anything, you're celebrated for just being your weird, unique self, right? And it's just a bunch of people sharing and spreading this love and positivity that is hard to imitate elsewhere. And I think that's what makes EDM shows unique, is this sense of like true community and connectedness that you just can't really find at other types of music shows. And so that's what really appeals to me, just that authenticity and that genuine love and kindness that people spread. It's a value that I cherish and I like to uphold in myself too.
I know I could say there's no such thing as an EDM festival in the state of Nebraska, but like do EDM DJs ever come to Omaha or Lincoln?
Here and there. My brother Greg, shout out Greg, he's been doing a great job at elevating the Royal Grove and the name and the brand and the likeness, especially in the EDM community. He recently brought out DJ Diesel, aka Shaquille O'Neal, so that was one heck of a show. That was my third time seeing him too, so that was a blast. Steve Aoki coming up in October, so it's definitely in Nebraska specifically. It's not the most widely recognized or widely appreciated genre of music, but I think especially in the younger generation and Lincoln being a college town with college-age students, EDM is becoming more and more mainstream and just liked by the masses. So I think that it's on that trajectory to become more and more popular. I think country dominates Nebraska just by the nature of the state, being an agricultural state, being a red state and all. So, but yeah, no, EDM is on the come up.
Do you think like more EDM DJs will eventually come to perform in Nebraska in like 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the market will continue to expand into the Midwest, because when you hear of these major A-list acts and their tours and their tour dates, they usually skip over the Midwest entirely, or they go to KC, which is usually like the closest semi-big city to the Midwest. But I think as it becomes more and more mainstream and more appreciated, hopefully I think we'll have more acts coming our way and showing people what they got.
Well, I'll be looking forward to that and hearing the news about that in the future.
Absolutely.
I'd like to move on. Finally, it's your DJ career. So how did that all start? Where did that idea come up?
So my DJing career, it began when, and this is always a great question because it's hard to pinpoint the exact moment where I just woke up and decided, hey, I want to be a DJ. Rather, it was a kind of a culmination of events. So growing up, I had a neighbor who used to DJ. It was a pretty well-respected, well-known DJ in Omaha, and I remember I always kind of had an admiration for that. As somebody who, used to party quite a bit in high school back in the glory days, I remember I always like wanted to be that person on aux, the one kind of setting the vibe and curating the vibe. And I always took a lot of great joy and pride in doing that. And so I think just naturally, based on my personality and my character, being a DJ was just in my cards. And it was just a matter of time for me to like figure that out for myself. My first DJ gig ever was junior year of high school. We did this dance called Flip Flop. So if any Ralston students or ex-Ralston students are watching this, you'll know about it. But it's this informal school dance that's done at a hotel. It's like not a sanctioned school event. It's all done and ran by the students. So you can imagine how that might go. So we got shut down about 2 hours in. We'll talk off record as to why. But that was my very first time ever DJing. And at the time, all I had was my computer and this like free DJ software I was running on it. So I don't really know if you consider that DJing. It was more so just hitting play for the next song and the next song and the next song. But just being the one that, again, was in charge of the energy and the vibe. That gave me so much energy and excitement and was just exhilarating. I loved every bit of it. And so that was my first taste of it. And then the following year, my senior year, when I was in the senior class office, we did a winter dance, I believe called Gloco Dance. So it was during the winter time. And that was an official school event. And that was also a big learning lesson because up until that point, when it came to DJing, to me, it was just a way for me to express myself and my likes and my interest in music. And so I was really only playing music I liked, right? And so come to learn over time that a great DJ plays for the crowd and caters to the crowd and not to themselves. And so that year, that was, again, that event it was all right. I think that I learned after the end of that, all right, even though I love, these bangers and I think they're great, not everybody is going to agree. So that's when I decided I wanted to also do this more seriously and more actively. So then I got to college and I joined a fraternity. And it was in that fraternity that I really started to pick up the pace. And because up until that point, I only done those 2 gigs in high school, nothing else. And then I got to college, right, and started doing our, froshes, our basement parties, our tailgates, and was really making this like a regular, reoccurring thing for me. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the beginning phases of the DJ career and how we got started, for sure.
Back in high school, what was like the hardest thing when, doing those 2 like unofficial events you just said, where the first one that only lasted like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So what was like the hardest part setting up that event and like the other event, your first gigs, I guess, in high school?
The hardest part was probably convincing people that I could do it, right? Because I was this kid who had a big dream or had a big vision, but maybe wasn't necessarily, people weren't bought into it, right? People didn't really know what I had to offer or what I was all about. So that was one of the most difficult pieces. And then the logistical side of DJing, especially mobile DJing, which is what that was. And by that, I mean having to supply your own audio equipment, your own lighting equipment. And there's so much there's so many little technicalities that go into, setting up that setup you see at a wedding or an event. And I definitely did not know exactly what I was doing. So it was very much like I don't know, quasi terrible setup, but we had 2 speakers running. We're probably clipping them and almost distorting them from how loud I was playing them. So just a lot of little things like that I've come to realize are important in creating a good sound and a good, environment there. But yeah, just everything that goes on behind the scenes, the preparing of the set, every single song, having cues set for each song, which means different points in the song you can jump to at any time. Understanding, beats per minute, like how one song can flow well into the other. Also keys, music keys and how that can help or make or break sounds. There's just so much on the technical side that even to this day I'm still learning, but I definitely didn't understand at the time the importance of I was just playing whatever I wanted to play.
Who were your biggest supporters back then?
Oh, who were my biggest supporters back then? I don't want to say I didn't have any, but probably at the time my closest friends in high school, and I'd be missing a few, but we got Luke, Colton, Jordy, Kalen. Just people who were good buddies of mine who had expressed my interest in DJing too, and were like, "Oh, you should do it, man." They always supported it, and I don't know if they knew how serious I was about it at the time. I think it was just one of those things like, "Oh, we're young, we can just kind of give it a go and do whatever we want without much buy-in or commitment to it." But yeah, they definitely helped. And then the people I would collaborate with on those 2 dances in setting them up, the other students that helped me plan out the parties, they also were like, "Yeah, man, you can do this. You're capable." So shout out to them.
What did your family think about you going to becoming a DJ?
I think they also, in a similar fashion, just saw it as, this kid's just, young and shooting for the stars and just kind of out of his element a little bit. But they supported it. I mean, they thought they didn't. I doubt, and I'd have to ask them because I haven't really talked to them about this. But I don't think they would have foreseen it become what it is now. They would have thought it just maybe been a little stint I would have had in high school. But I think my parents, especially my mom, was mostly concerned when I expressed to her just how much I wanted to be a DJ as I got older. The worries and dangers that maybe come with that sort of lifestyle in terms of, just the late nights, the drugs, the alcohol, the people, type of people you surround yourself with. I think, especially as it's portrayed in media, DJs, there's stereotypes behind what kind of people DJs are. And I really strive myself in differentiating myself from those stereotypes and just being my true, authentic, genuine self. Like somebody who just cares about playing good music, having a good time, making people dance, and creating a safe space for people to enjoy themselves.
Did you go by Montez Beatz back then too?
Yeah, I did actually. I've had that moniker since I think about freshman year of high school because this is funny. Prior to becoming a DJ, I was actually a SoundCloud rapper, and for a multitude of good reasons, those songs will never be heard again. But I gave it a go. At the time, that was the thing. Like that's what everybody in my circle wanted to be, was a rapper. Oh gosh, that's funny to think about. But yeah, no, we dropped a few tracks, quickly received the feedback we deserved, and realized maybe this isn't the pathway for us to pursue. So yeah, that's when I think that's at that point when I diverted to just DJing, because I knew I wanted to do something music oriented. I just didn't know what exactly that looked like. And maybe it just took a little trial and error to figure that out. But DJing was it, 100%.
How did you come up with the name Montez Beatz?
That's another great question because I don't exactly know. I know my older brother, back in high school had his own moniker, and it was C Money. So I think both names kind of are a play on to our last name, which is Montoya. So somehow, Montoya, Montez, it just kind of sounded cool. And then Beats, because that's just what I play is beats. So Montez Beats.
What's the biggest difference between Edgar Montoya and Montez Beatz?
Oh, man, that is good. What is the biggest difference between Edgar Montoya and Montez Beatz?
if there's any difference.
Yeah, no, yeah, I appreciate the follow up. Over time they've kind of morphed into one person. I feel like and as I was telling you earlier, I'm approached all the time by people who don't even know my real name. They just know me as Montez Beatz, and I don't mean to stroke my ego in saying that, but I think just over time, with me growing even bit by bit in popularity or just being well known in the local scene, fortunately, those two identities kind of blend. Oftentimes referred to as that rather than my real name. Even by people that know me, they just call me Montez anyway. So it's almost just like it's the same person, bro. It's the same person.
Did you have any inspirations entering your DJ gig?
Let's see. That's a good question, man.
Like that one particular DJ you're like, you know what, I don't want to be exactly like him, but I want to be very similar to him.
Yeah, for sure. I would have to say, and this is kind of funny, but at the time, this was when Jersey Shore was popping. So yeah, DJ Pauly D was a goat in my eyes, and I just love like the image he portrayed, all the fun he was having, playing at these beach parties, playing at these clubs in LA and Vegas and New York, and that kind of just epitomized everything I thought a great DJ should and could be. And so I just admire that lifestyle and just what he had going on, going from a TV star to a DJ. And I think, yeah, he's somebody who I looked up to during those years, not so much now.
So you've been a DJ, you said, since your junior year of high school, correct?
Yeah, technically speaking, yep.
So what year was that?
That would have been 2016.
So from 2016 up to now in 2024, for 8 years, you've just been doing this DJ gig. How have you seen yourself evolve in that?
Oh my gosh, man! Like nothing else. I mean, so in college, as I said, joining the fraternity was a business move of mine, a way for me to obtain a platform that I could use to elevate myself as a DJ. And so, at that time, actually, I wasn't playing for any amount of money. I was playing for free. I was just playing to play because at the time, I mean, I was just, excited at the prospect of being able to even play in front of these 20, 30 people that were, all cramped in this little basement in this random house. And there's a few more funny stories we can talk about later. But, for the first 2-3 years of college, I was playing for absolutely free and just taking on any gig I could. And it was all, college-based, college kids, fun, just ratchet parties. And so... then I met, so in the College of Business, we have these classes called prep classes, and they're all meant to help you develop professional skills in the workplace and for your own personal growth. And so in my second class, BizAt 222, this individual named Micah Lindblad was the teacher at the time, who is now a campus recruiter for Nelnet, if I'm not mistaken. And I had expressed to him as part of that class, being career oriented, I was like, I want to be a DJ. Like, that's what I want to do for a living. And so he, upon knowing this, connected me with one of his fraternity brothers from back in the day. He used to be a Pike. His brother's name was Nick Fitch. And so Nick, who goes by Nick the Quick, is a pretty prominent DJ here in the Lincoln and Omaha community, and even just in Nebraska as a whole. And he was the person who helped me get my foot in the door at the clubs here, at the bars, I should say, at the bars here on O Street, beginning with the Fat Toad. Have you ever been to the Fat Toad?
I'm very familiar with the Fat Toad.
Yeah.
Can you share about that first time performing there?
Yeah, man. I just remember meeting up with him like half an hour before, right outside the bar, and just talking and kind of like doing what we're doing now, just getting to know each other a little bit. And he asked me about my background and my experience, and I just remember being so excited, just overwhelmed with joy. And I've never stepped foot into a bar up to this point. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't even know what the Fat Toe really was. But that was my first time DJing at a bar, and I just remember upon walking in, and this was actually before I was even 21, so I don't know if
I was going to ask about that. Were you even 21 then? Because you said at the time you haven't even stepped in a bar yet, so that's interesting.
Yeah. So now that they know, I mean, they can't do nothing. But at the time, I was definitely a minor, and the only stipulation was no drinking, right? So, but yeah, dude, upon first walking in, I was like, wow, like this is it. Like, we made it. Mama, we made it. And I mean, in the grand scheme of bars, for any Lincoln or Omaha folk here. The Fat Toad, I'm not gonna even say much more. It's a great bar. It's a fun place. It's a fun time. But I knew after a while of being there, like it's time to step it up to the next level. And so I was actually at the Fat Toe for about 1.5 to 2 years before I even stepped foot in any other sort of establishment. Now during this time, I think I was still doing, one-off gigs, whether it be a formal, like a Greek formal, or like an event for the school. But as far as, the clubs and bars were concerned, which is what I really love to do. Clubs, bars, and festivals are my 3 main types of events that I seek out and really take the most, or enjoy doing the most. But it was about 1.5 or 2 at the Fat Tub before we really moved on. So I spent those 2 years really just honing in on my skills, developing my skills. And that actually makes me think too about another experience I had working with another DJ named Will Bishop, who went by DJ 1L. So there used to be a DJ club on UNL's campus. I don't know if it still exists. I don't think it does, but that was something I'd become a part of sophomore year, and that's where I met the club president, DJ 1L. And he was just amazing at what he did. He was very well experienced, very knowledgeable, especially on the technical side of DJing. And so he taught me a lot about those technical pieces I talked to you about earlier. The BPM matching, understanding keys and how they flow. And so he helped me create or convert my crappy mixes into ones you could actually appreciate and listen to on your own time. So shout out him. Shout out DJ 1L. But yeah, the Fat Toad is where it all started. If you've been there and you've been in the cages, you may be entitled to compensation. But so that's that.
So what were the bars after the Fat Toad then?
After the Fat Toad, I want to say that the next bar I had the opportunity to spin at was Brothers Bar and Grill. That place is a lot of fun. Loved working there. All the employees are great. A really cool ambiance to that place. And from there, we kind of so what had happened, let me back up a little bit. So after, working with Nick for some time, I realized it was time for me to kind of, move on and go independent, if you will. Because at the time, I was really more so his apprentice, learning and working under him. But I hit a point where I was like, all right, I feel confident. I feel connected enough, let me go out and branch out and do my own thing for a while. And so I took some of those connections that I had made through Nick and ran with them and started doing my own thing and being independent. And so I quickly kind of dispersed all over. I had done, in those next 2 years, I'd done Duffy's, excuse me,
You're good.
the Bar, Brothers, Main Street, Longwells, JJ Hooligans, Barry's. I'm sure I'm missing a few. Just about every place imaginable on O Street and in the Haymarket, with the exception of maybe the Brass Rail or Junction.
I'm familiar with the Brass Rail and how the owner usually is a DJ. I was informed with that. Thanks, Buzz.
Yeah.
And but Junction, I kind of want to learn about that. I'm kind of surprised you haven't performed there yet. Is there a reason for that?
So to my knowledge, Junction is a place that primarily books out-of-state talent with the occasional in-state talent, but they really pride themselves on bringing in, let's say, bigger DJs, quote unquote. And they're very much an EDM and house-based kind of club, which for the longest, it's only really recent that I'm starting to kind of move into that area of music and DJing. For the longest, I would have considered, and still do to a degree, consider myself like an open format top 40 DJ. Namely because I was listening to a little bit of everything and felt confident in playing everything, but also because it provided me the most opportunities by far and large. Being a top 40 and open format DJ is how you get gigs in this industry, especially as a local DJ. Because that then allows you to play at weddings, corporate events, quinceañeras, bar mitzvahs, school events, whatever you can think of. I've done so many cool, unique events because of that. But the longer I've been DJing, as is with any other hobby, you grow, you change as you get older too. and my likes and dislikes have changed as well. And so now I'm really starting to like maneuver more into the EDM space. And in order to be a successful EDM DJ, you really have to be a producer as well. And that is another bit of an obstacle for me because I never really had any formal music training, any music theory knowledge growing up. So that's like tackling a whole new beast. But it's something that I'm willing to do and give a shot or give a try.
So you're learning more about music theory and just producing music as we speak, would you say?
You know, passively, real passively. I'm still kind of, and this really is a segue into the next, or into another topic. But with working full time and still juggling a multitude of other acts outside of work, I oftentimes struggle to find like the motivation or desire to really, hit the books hard and really learn. But I'm hoping to, I just got to do it. I just got to kind of start somewhere. And that's the most difficult part is just starting somewhere. But I sure, didn't just start DJing overnight either. So, yeah, maybe this is the wake-up call I needed. I'm gonna start looking into that.
If you don't have any motivation, that's when discipline comes in.
Well said, partner.
So, yeah, discipline's also hard as well. So I'll give you that, but shouldn't be an excuse at all. When I don't have motivation sometimes when it comes to editing. I think I told you that earlier too. So we're both going through the same thing. So this is probably a wake-up call for me too, to do a better job of what my passion, which is this. So
there you go.
Kind of want to go back to the DJ gigs. So you talked about your first DJ gigs at your high school, your college parties, and the college bars, and you kind of hit on like the corporations, and, like the weddings and all that. So do you have any like interesting stories about that you can share? Of how you got that and what the performing there was like?
Yeah. Weddings have always been interesting. For any other DJs out there, weddings are typically not favorable or not something you want to do. But mainly because, you're spending the entire day at the venue, and then there's multiple checkpoints prior to the event. And there's also just a lot of background work that goes into it. You're essentially a wedding planner, an MC, and a DJ all in one. And it's also their most important special day, whomever is getting married. And so there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress involved. But on the flip side, you make a lot of money. A lot more money than you would being a club or a bar DJ. So there's a give and take for sure. I can't think of any interesting stories now. I mean, my first few weddings, they had their moments, a few blunders here and there where, I mispronounced like the bride or the groom's name, or the mic would just shut off in the middle of a speech, stuff that was pretty embarrassing, but, it happens. It happens. Every gig, and this includes, literally of any type of gig I've done, every gig has provided me with a learning lesson of sorts on how to do something differently or how to do something better. So I always try to be, humble and remain graceful and understand that I'm not perfect. But there is a certain level of scrutiny and attention to detail that you must maintain, especially if you want to be like a reputable DJ who's going to get asked to come back. There's not a whole lot of room for mistakes, transparently. Like, those mistakes cannot happen often, but they do happen.
So correct me if I'm wrong. When I think of a DJ at a wedding, the weddings I've gone to at least, is just a playlist, and the DJ's in charge of the playlist. Do you do the same exact thing where it's just you make your own playlist and you just wait for the whole song to play and then cue to the next song? Or do you like add like your own style into it?
Yeah. So I know there are a lot of wedding companies and DJs that do just that. I pride myself on being different in that I bring the kind of club and bar DJing style to the wedding. Definitely a little bit tamer, less scratching, less sound effects, less of that, and really allowing more songs to fully play out. Because at weddings, I think a lot of it is people just want to be able to sing their hearts out to the entirety of the song. But I still add my own little Montez Beatz flair to it, and you can't get that elsewhere, right? So, but it is very much less about the technical side of DJing and more about, being hot on the mic, being confident on it, being able to coordinate, being able to make last-minute changes when the, photographer doesn't show up or when the maid of honor gets too drunk, just having to work around things like that. You're very much like a problem solver and a troubleshooter as much as you are a DJ at a wedding.
You've hit on, again, you talked about the bars and now weddings. Let's talk about like venues. What venues have you performed in? That would be notable, like the Royal Grove or even CHI Health Center.
Yeah, for sure. So I named those that I've played at here in Lincoln. In Omaha, I played at Throwback Lounge, which is now known as Crush Ultra Lounge, in downtown. I've also played at Rhythms Lounge, which is a Latin club out in Westo. And then I've done like a few schools there. I've done a few proms, homecoming dances. I've also played at Baxter Arena. And then, like you mentioned here in Lincoln, I played at the Royal Grove. I played at the Bourbon Theater a few times, working with one of my artists, Chris Topher. Shout out Chris Topher. He's an up-and-coming rapper here. Spits that real. He's fire, so check him out. But he and I would open up for shows together at the Bourbon, and still do. And then, most notably, opening up for NLE Choppa over at the Pinnacle Bank Arena on 420. So that was crazy.
Did you get to meet NLE Choppa?
I didn't meet NLE, and transparently, the reason why was because I was so just nervous the days leading up to that event, and even during that, I was kind of just in my, in this trance-like state where it's hard to describe, but I had a 45-minute set opening up for him, and it felt like the blink of an eye. Like I got up there and then it was over. And transparently, so when you do a show like that, you get a green room, which is a dressing room, and you also get a runner, which is like, food, drinks, whatever it is you want. And so I got a bottle of Patron and a charcuterie board. And needless to say, we ran through the Patron before I hit the stage because I was so nervous. And I'm not a big drinker. Let me put that on record. I'm really not. But in that moment, oh man, I never in my life have I ever been that like nervous for a gig, right? Just performing on that type of stage in front of that many people. And I knew I was the man for it. I knew I was good for it. But that's another good thing to say though, is that when you feel that way before a gig or before an event, you know that you still have that passion, that dog in you. And so that's reassuring. And now, I feel much better prepared for the next gig of that scale when and if it should come. So, but no, I didn't meet NLE. We watched him from the side of the stage. And at that point, I was, pretty buzzed. So I just wasn't really thinking about meeting him. And I'm not a big NLE fan, so I didn't want to fangirl and be like, oh, my God, NLE.
You know what? I can respect you saying that because I know. Have you seen that famous clip of DaBaby in a car and a fan walking up saying, like, DaBaby, I'm your biggest fan. He's like, name one song. He's like, you did The Box, right? And Roddy Ricch sang The Box. And DaBaby said, screw out of here. But he didn't say screw out of here. He said another word and rolled up the window. So just seeing. So, again, I just want to respect you for saying that.
Yeah, man. Because it was still nonetheless a really cool experience to be. I mean, we were as close to him as anybody else was, right? Or anybody else could have been by being on the side. I mean, he came up to the side a few times just to interact with the stage hands there. And so we saw him up close and personal. We made eye contact once or twice, I believe. But, yeah, no, NLE is an eccentric performer. That dude is, like, he's the epitome of what a rap show should be. Like, he dances, he interacts with the crowd. He's so much fun, and he threw down for the whole hour. He was rapping, the mic was on. So shout out NLE.
So who reached out to you for that opening gig?
Yeah, so I actually I initiated that, and I followed through to make sure that could happen. I really pushed hard for that, and it's a pretty unique and odd story and cool story. So through the university, through my job at UNL, and through the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we do these book clubs called Include. And they're essentially, you pick a book, you pick a topic, you find your audience, and you meet, semi-regularly to talk about these books. And they usually pertain to something to do with DEI. So that's that. But the person that I was facilitating, so I was one of the co-facilitators, one of the people leading the group. And the other person, somebody I'd never met up until that point, her name is Karen Wills, and she works in the SLICE office, which is the Student Life Involvement Community Engagement Office, I believe. But they essentially do all of the UPC stuff, all of the events that students get to partake in, concerts, comedian shows, all that stuff. And so when I learned about her title and her role, I was like, oh, Do you happen to have a spring concert coming up? Because at the time they hadn't announced NLE or who was going to perform. And then she was like, yeah, we do. She didn't tell me any details because the NDA wasn't signed. But I was like, okay, well, hey, I'm a DJ and I'd love for the opportunity to, help out. And so I gave her my contact information. And we just carried on with business as usual with the group. And then as the date approached and NLE was announced as the artist, I was like, oh, that's right up my alley. And so I pushed for it. I was emailing and texting her like every week, asking for an update, asking if there's anything else I could provide. I was sending over mixes, so giving actual samples of my product so that they could hear what I had to offer. And then I even got or attended a meeting that the UPC students had to just introduce myself and again kind of push for that even further. And so yeah, ultimately they liked what they heard. They liked the mix. They liked my persona enough that they booked me. And yeah, that was crazy, man. Prior to that, actually, the night before, I also opened up with my buddy Brendan. Shout out Brendan and Gerald. We opened up for an EDM DJ named Riot 10, who's also a pretty notable dubstep DJ in the EDM scene. So in two different genres, two different worlds, but both very like respectable acts, back-to-back weekends. So that was the craziest weekend of my life.
You bring up like all these names like that helped you out in the DJ world, whether they are like when they are a DJ or even an artist. So what's that music world in Nebraska like? Because it sounds like artists and DJs seem to know each other or know of each other and communicate well. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. So, Nebraska is a small state in the grand scheme of things, and the DJ community is even smaller. So, needless to say, I mean, just about everybody either knows of everybody or actually knows everybody. In my case, having spent the past 7 years in Lincoln, I've become very familiar with just about every Lincoln DJ that's ever like been here or passed through here. Most notably, DJ Buzz. I don't know if that's gonna be a question later on. I got a few homies that I'm particularly close with because in the DJ community, even at the local level, there still exists some egotism and narcissism and like, I'm gonna screw you over for my benefit sort of thing. Or I'm gonna pretend to be your friend, but in turn, I just need something from you. And then once I got it, I'm gonna dump you. So, unfortunately, I haven't really ran into that too much, but I have seen it happen many, many times. So I'm very wary of that. And I like to really be selective in who I work with and who I collaborate with. And yeah.
When I walked in, we were just like chit-chatting. You said that super recently you've been super selective, not only like the people you work with, but like the venues and the people you are performing for. I thought that was really interesting when you said that. So can you explain more about that? Why are you being so selective now?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that, going into my 8th year of DJing, I've seen just about it all and done just about it all. And there's been multiple points throughout my career, especially more recently than ever, where I've just hit a creative wall or a roadblock where I'm like, this doesn't excite me anymore. This doesn't energize me anymore. Like something is not right, And usually in those instances, I would just take a step back and take like an extended break from DJing to try to reignite that spark. But I'm really starting to realize, especially as of lately, that it's more so about the type of music that I've been playing, right? Because as I mentioned, I've been a top 40 and open format DJ for the better part of my career. And I've enjoyed it a great deal, but I'm growing into I'm opening or starting a new chapter in my DJ career, and I feel myself being pulled in that direction. And when I'm in my bedroom just playing music and practicing, like I always mess around with the EDM tracks, with the house, with the dubstep, with the techno. And that's what gets me like hype and dancing in my bathroom, or not my bathroom, bedroom, even in the bathroom too. Whereas, the top 40, it just doesn't really ignite that spark like it used to. And so I just think I need to kind of divert, take a different direction. And on one hand, that means that I'm going to have less gigs or less opportunities to play that kind of music because it's not as listened to or recognized or is enjoyed by as many people as those who listen to like top 40 and open format, like your radio hits, your Cardi B's, your Nicki Minaj's, you know what I'm saying, your Chris Brown's. that's okay. Like that's a sacrifice I'm willing to endure because it will keep my spark or my flame lit and not result in me burning out and crashing out. So yeah.
What makes you different from all the other Nebraska DJs?
Damn. What makes me different, man? I think.
Let me word this different. Say I am a corporate owner
For sure.
and I'm picking out my DJs of, all right, I'm going to have this event. I got to pick one DJ to be in charge of the music and run that. Why should I pick you over these other DJs?
You know what? I think the first thing that comes to mind is my working style, my communication style, the way I conduct business. I think that's what differentiates me from most other DJs as a business major and as somebody who's just been very business thinking, business oriented my entire life. I think I bring a different level of professionalism to this world that's typically maybe not always professional, if you will. And so I think when it comes to especially like those corporate, those school, those weddings, those types of events, I think people have more confidence in working with me because of how I present myself and how I carry myself, how I conduct myself during the event. And so I think that's one thing that makes me different in that facet. And in general, I think one thing that I've always prided myself on is always catering to the crowd, even when it's music that I could care less about or absolutely hate, perhaps. Well, hate's a strong word. I don't really hate anything, but music that's maybe not my favorite to play or to listen to. Because if the people are having fun and if they're energized, if they're dancing, I'm having fun. You know, I'm having a great time. And so my ability to read the room and I take requests with grace. Like I'm always somebody who's never like, a lot of DJs hate when they get requests for people. And there's definitely a way to go about it. So for any of you party goers out there, just don't shove your phone in their face, man. That's not cool. You know, you're not a karaoke machine. You're a human being. So ask nicely, maybe throw a $5, $10, $20 bill their way, and I promise you that request will get played every time. At least that's my philosophy. That's how I operate. So being able to adapt, be versatile, read the room, and be professional. That's what I do.
I do want to say, setting this podcast up, you were very well with your communication skills, just getting back to me like in 5 minutes or less. So you got that. I will give you that.
I appreciate that, bro. Yeah, I do spend a great deal of time on my phone, and I'm one of those people who like, if I'm on TikTok or Reddit, which are my two primary time consumers, I'll reply right away. Like I'm not those people that have like 300 unread messages. Like let's just get down to business, you know. Let's stand on business. Let's take care of business. Exactly.
How do you market yourself?
Social media primarily. Instagram at Montez Beatz. See the logo right there. As well as Facebook. I have a page there that I need to be more attentive to, but it's still there. For the boomers, for the older generation that maybe aren't on Instagram. I have an email, montezbeatsmusic@gmail.com. Please contact me for all requests and bookings. It's on my LinkedIn, professional DJ. But yeah, primarily through social media means. TikTok is another one, can't forget that. But it's funny you ask because that's something I struggle with as well. Struggle finding the time, the energy, the motivation to create promotional materials and content. And I think the reason I struggle with it is because everybody and their mom's doing it, and you know we're constantly being flooded with it every time we log on to those apps, and it's just so much of it is just so superficial and like I don't know, man. I don't know. That could be an entire other podcast, but yeah, I think I could be better. No, I definitely know I could be better about it. I actually like to what's the word? Basically like third party off, like give that to somebody else.
Have like your own editor?
Yeah. So shout out my boy Nico Schultz. He's on the track team here in Nebraska and one of my really good friends. Got a lot of love for that kid. And he is a social media guru. I mean, he does take a lot of passion and stride in doing that, like the content, the creation, the optimization of content. He's good at it, and he, you know, is very analytical and just strategical thinking. So I like to give it to other people because I would rather use my time and energy and resources towards doing what I love, which is like the actual DJing aspect. So yeah.
Have you ever thought about like having like a YouTube account and like being like a DJ vlogger at all, or?
You know, That's a good idea. I mean, I'm thinking about it now. The thing is, like when I'm DJing, before, during, and after, like it's hard for me to like multitask and do two things at once, especially when I'm DJing. Like it's hard for me to like, also be, video capturing or playing the lights, because I really need to be locked in. Like people will come up to me in the booth and talk to me, and they'll try to hold a conversation. And I'm like in my head, I'm just like, bro, like I can't right now. Like I'm about to like throw down this fire transition. Like I need to lock in. So that's always difficult because I'm not like a douchebag, if you will, or somebody who's like too cool at all. It's just that when I'm working, like I'm working, like I'm getting down to business. So, but yeah, no, I think vlogs, like I said, I just want other people to do that stuff for me, and I'll pay them money to do that stuff for me.
That's where I'm at right now. It's just because I'm the editor, obviously the interviewer, the marketer. I'm everything with this podcast.
Man.
So
yeah,
and
you
then
wear all the hats.
and if you want to do this full time, you have to do it every single day.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, okay, I can't do it for now every single day. So
Right.
and I don't know if I said this already. I don't want to pay anyone to do that. I'm trying to grow that on my own. But
yeah.
again, I'm only 23 years old right now, and we'll see how this goes. I'm hoping this is under God's will, and He allows me to keep doing this. And if He trusts me to do this alone, then again, it's His will. If not, I'll connect with someone and see what happens from there. But
Yes, sir. Yes,
outside
sir.
of that, what's your routine like? Say you have a DJ gig on this Saturday. What is that whole day like?
Yeah. So Saturday specifically.
Oh, I guess share Friday night or Saturday night, just any week. Yeah, just share whatever.
I'll say this because like my weekdays look different than my weekends. So weekdays I work at 8 to 5. I work at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, and so I'm getting up at about 7. Making my breakfast burritos, washing my face, brushing my teeth, getting my coffee ready. Listening to some new music. I like to listen to new music in the mornings to get inspired and also just add new things to the playlist. I feel like in the morning is when I'm really in that creative zone, more so than at night. At night, I'm usually just like rotting on my couch before bedtime. And so, go through the work day, get things done, go to the gym right after work with my brother Kalen. Shout out Kalen Kinnaman. And get home, make dinner, unwind. So very much, ritualistic, same kind of Monday through Friday, day to day. Now on the weekends, so on a Saturday, I try to get up at around the same time, and usually I like to spend all the time I have up until DJing just doing a variety of different like hobbies and activities that maybe I don't have time to or the energy to during the week. So whether that's even just taking a walk at a park, going to play basketball with some friends. I like to diversify like my time as much as possible and not spend too much time focusing on one thing or doing one thing. And so once once like 8 or 9 o'clock rolls around, that's when I'll go back home, shower, get ready, kind of like do some last minute prep on the set. And for the most part, I really don't prepare my sets ever. I just kind of do it on the fly. Like anytime I do whatever kind of gig it is, except for maybe a wedding, that's where I actually do take a little bit more time to prepare and have a specified playlist. But other than that, I'm just rolling with the punches. Like I'll just pull up. I have like tens of thousands of songs, and I'll just feel out the crowd and kind of just go with it. So.
Earlier, you brought up how people would request a lot of songs. Do you grant that wish a lot because as you said earlier, not a lot of DJs do that, but you're kind of different. So do you do it every time, most of the time, half the time? Just depends.
Yeah. You know what? It depends on a few things. So I'd say on average about 80% of the time I grant them. As long as there's songs that fit the general vibe that I've got going, especially if it's like at a club or a bar and it's like, I'm trying to get people dancing, right? So if they give me, I don't know, some like super obscure old folk song, I'll probably be like, it's funny. This is kind of something I just did jokingly and I wouldn't do it again. But one time this girl kept like shoving her phone in my face, like repeatedly, even after I kept ignoring her. Because like I said, I do not like that at all. I hate that.
That's your number one pet peeve?
That's my biggest pet peeve is when people shove their phones in your face. Or when they're like 100 feet away and they have their phone in there and like, I can't read a damn thing. I don't know what that says. All I see is a blob of text. So I'll look at it and then just like look back and pretend I didn't see it. But when people like come up to the booth and will like you won't see anything but their hand in their phone, and I'm just like, dude, leave me alone. And I just don't like that method of asking. It just feels disrespectful.
So that means I'm going to do that then next time I see you.
You know what? I'll tell you this. You can do that. Just make sure there's a $20 bill attached to the phone that I can grab, and then I promise you I will say, yep, you got it.
It depends if I like really want this song though. I will throw in, how about $15?
15 is graceful. I mean, I'm you know, I'm grateful for anything, $5 even, but having some sort of monetary, you know, compensation to go with it. Because money talks, man. Money talks.
Does that happen? Is that common? Someone will throw in a $10 bill or
yes.
any money to just for you to request for them to request a 4-minute song and you just play it?
You know what? Now that you ask, that reminds me and helps me answer your earlier question of what are some of the craziest things that have happened at your gigs. So one time at Barry's, this drunk dude who was I believe a SoundCloud rapper, he tipped me $150 for him to sing his crappy SoundCloud song on the microphone. So I allowed him to do it. And what I didn't know at the time, which would have made me act differently. So in Barry's, have you been to Barry's?
I'm very familiar with Barry's.
Very familiar. Okay, so you know how there's 10 below, there's the main bar, there's the rooftop.
Yep.
So there's 3 really different main areas to this place, and we're in 10 below, the nightclub section. What I didn't know at the time was that the speakers are connected to the entire place. So whatever is being played at 10 below is also being played at the main bar and on the rooftop. So I didn't realize that this dude's like, you know, god-awful, scratchy singing was being like transmitted throughout the entire building. And so I basically got chewed out pretty hard by the general manager after that. And they're like, you never are allowed to do that again. You will not be invited back, because it was just that bad. Like, his singing sucked. And so what I would do next time is I would still take the $150, but I would just turn the mic off so that he wouldn't realize that nothing was being transmitted out.
That's actually a funny story.
Yeah, it was worth it, man. The tip, I mean, that's $150 for 3 minutes of this dude, like, embarrassing himself. So, like,
thanks for
if he's
sharing
watching
that.
this, I'm sorry. But, yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
So
I'm sorry, what was the other question? I forgot.
Oh, no, I think you answered it. It was just it was just the common question, the common thing of people tipping money. Yeah.
It happens infrequently. I mean, it happens more at bars than it does like at clubs or at like school events, corporate events. At least in my experience. Now, at weddings, you do typically get tipped, especially, you know, when it's 9 and 10 p.m. and the father of the bride is 12 Michelob Ultras in. They like to start throwing out money like it's candy. So
we hit on this before, but I kind of want to hit on it again. It's the DJ community, and you said how it's kind of like an egotistical thing. So who are DJs that you have had a joint gig with, whether it's at a bar, a wedding, or something, and you guys just have good chemistry together?
Yes, sir. So there's a few DJs that come to mind. Number one, of course, DJ Buzz. I mentioned him like 3 times now, but truly, so, you know, like I mentioned, in this community, there's a lot of that superficiality and just fakeness, for lack of a better word. But upon meeting Buzz at the Royal Grove for the very first time, I was immediately like, okay, this dude is actually like really chill and just down to earth and genuine in the way he like talks and carries himself and acts, and his mixing was great too. So naturally, I just like felt drawn to like start talking to him, and we kind of just clicked. Like, you know how you just do that with some people, you just kind of click. And so from there on out, you know, we continued to talk, and since then, I mean, that was probably about a year and a half ago. And we've done multiple B2Bs, which in the DJ community, that means back to back. That's when you have 2 DJs playing at once. And how exactly that looks can differ, but essentially we're just going back and forth. Having fun, kind of feeding off one another's energy. So we've done that at the bar. We've done that at the Loft in Kearney. We've done that at, I think we might have done that at Brothers. We've definitely done it at Barry's. Shout out the Bat that almost took out a few people at Barry's that night. That's another story. And so, yeah, he's a great cat. Got a lot of love for him. We'll continue to work with him and, you know, help each other grow. Neri Cabrera is another good homie of mine. Met him when I was actually in college. He was working for the University of Nebraska Lincoln, And we were on a 2-hour car ride to Lexington, 2.5-hour car ride to Lexington to pick up these students for the summer camp we were working. And so you got a lot of time to talk. And that's when we got to share our interest in what we do. He was a DJ, or getting into DJing. I was kind of already in it. So then I kind of helped him get his foot in the door at a few places, and to this day continue working with him pretty closely and supporting him in his endeavors. Great guy, also very genuine, down to earth. So shout out Kid Siren. One of my best friends, if not my best friend, Luke Hessel, DJ Hessel. I kind of like put him on to like what DJing is or could be, and kind of I think inspired him to, you know, make his first purchase of a controller and start doing it at what would have been 24. Because a lot of people think that once you get past a certain age, it's too late. But that's the thing; it's never too late, man. You could be 40, you could be 60, and you could start DJing and become a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, 2 Chainz didn't blow up till he was like 40, I don't think. So there you have it. Age is just a number in that respect. And so, yeah, those 3 guys, you know, they're goated, love them. There's probably a few other DJs I'm like definitely forgetting about, but just about I haven't had any real negative experiences with any particular DJ or felt like I got, you know, slighted or screwed over by any of them. So far so good.
Hopefully it stays like that.
Yeah, knock on wood.
What are your favorite venues to perform at?
Oh man, ever since I did NLE at Pinnacle, it set a new precedent. It set a new expectation of like what DJing could be. Playing in an arena, like everything from being ushered in by security to hitting that big stage, playing on that like state-of-the-art sound system. I mean, legendary. Like I want to recreate that feeling so bad, and it's kind of hard like taking a step back from that because now I've gotten a taste of, you know, like I've opened Pandora's box. Like I know what else exists and what else is out there. So I want to do more of that. But I really love to play at the Royal Grove. Again, shout out Greg. That's another DJ that I really enjoy working with. Great new venue, $2 million remodel. I went to the Grove before it got remodeled and after, and it's like night and day difference. You know, you wouldn't even recognize it from the old one. Greatly ran establishment, always bringing in lots of cool talent. But that place has a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play there as a DJ because of the, you know, concert style stage, the lighting, the state-of-the-art lighting system, the LED screen in the back. It's just, have you been there? Have you been on any shows?
Yep,
there?
I haven't gone to the Royal Grove since it's been remodeled.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
I went there like 3 times for a formal.
Oh, right on, man. Right on. Yeah.
The old Royal Grove, I should say.
The old Grove,
before
yeah.
it was remodeled.
You have to check out the new one then. State of the art. It feels like one of their mottos I think is Vegas in Nebraska, and it's probably the closest thing to Vegas in Nebraska with how it is. But yeah, Royal Grove. Let me also shout out Barry's. Love playing at Barry's. I mean, Barry's is a Nebraska staple. You know, it's always going to be busy no matter what. And they've been open for longer than I can even imagine. And so that place always it's fun because it's a very diverse crowd. So you really get to challenge yourself playing for different types of people, a real multitude of people.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh, geez. So I'll be 30. Yeah, I'll be 30. In the next 5 years, I'd like to really, as we kind of touched on earlier, take producing more seriously and really give it a go and give it a proper chance, right? Because I've kind of just sold myself short and been like, oh, it's too late. But then again, I at least have some informal or preliminary music knowledge and experience with DJing because it involves some music theory to some degree. And so I think I just need to start. I just need to do it, develop 15, 30 minutes a day to it. But I really want to, in 5 years, be a EDM producer / DJ, and hopefully, you know, doing numbers on the streams, creating music that people really enjoy and can connect with, and then touring. You know, that's the ultimate goal, is to tour the world, play music.
So you want this to be a full-time job?
In an ideal world, yes. In an ideal world. So yeah, that's the goal, man. That's the dream. I don't know if it's out of reach, but I at least want to try. I want to fail trying, at least, right? But hopefully we'll make it.
You talked about opening for NLE Choppa. Who are your other dream artists or rappers or DJs to open for?
Oh, man. Again, love to open up for 4B. That's my guy. Would also love to open up for Diesel. Love the energy he brings on stage. And it's Shaq, man. I mean, come Um, Flume, Louis the Child, those two are some of my favorite EDM acts that really got me started back in like 2018 when I first was introduced to EDM by my friend Jordy. Shout out Jordy Nielsen. Those were the people that first, pulled me in with their melodic waves. And so those four, I think, are the first that come to mind. But rappers, I'd really love to work with. A lot of people don't really like him, but Rich the Kid was one of my favorite rappers growing up. I don't know if you're familiar with Rich.
I'm familiar with Rich the Kid.
Yeah, so I mean,
Haven't heard too much about him recently, like at all. Not since like senior year of high school, probably, but I do remember him.
Yeah. So I grew up on that kind of music, the SoundCloud era. Music.
So like Famous Dex,
Rich, Made in Tokyo. It's a lot of the nostalgia, but I like their energy. I like the music they put out. So
do you think SoundCloud rapping's kind of died down?
Oh yeah,
because I think so too.
I think it has. I think it had its phase probably from like 2012 to 2016, where it was at its peak. I think now that like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal are domineering the streaming space, that's just no, not even that. I think like with TikTok and social media, you're seeing more just virality overnight. You got your Sexy Red who just blew up over making I think it was Ski Yee. Ice Spice made that one song. I mean, people that back before these platforms existed would not have had a chance to make it. But, the right people find it at the right time, and it just seems to somehow blow up overnight. So hopefully that happens to me.
What's the DJ you see yourself as, like comparing yourself to like David Guetta or like a John Summit even? Mm-hmm. Who do you see yourself as if you had to say like, you know what, my style and attitude is similar to this person?
Yeah, man. Yeah. James Hype, man. James Hype. This dude likes to really go crazy on the decks when he's performing. He's very much a just technical mastermind in the sense that, so a lot of DJs, when they get on stage at these bigger festivals and shows, they have pre-recorded sets. And a lot of that is because the visuals, the lighting, the pyro is all kind of time coded to the music, so they can't really do much to alter it, or else the people that are running those aspects will also get thrown off. But James Hype, you see him live and he's like touching every knob, but he's actually doing something with it. Unlike a lot of DJs who kind of just like, they act like they're doing something, but they ain't really doing anything. He's very much, manipulating the sounds every second. So I love that it's engaging. It keeps the DJ, engaged and having fun. But yeah, I'd say James Hyde, man. I love what he does.
It's funny you bring up like the knob twisting and you say it looks like he's not doing anything, but he's actually doing something. Mm-hmm. I've seen Summer Rae has been getting a lot of heat for not being a lot of quote unquote an actual DJ. And I talked to Buzz about this on our episode with him. She came to Lincoln in like March or April. Mm-hmm. Were you there by chance?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, absolutely not.
No, I could care less about Summer Rae, bro.
My next question was gonna be like, what do you think about her, I guess, entering the DJ world?
You know what? I won't knock her, because if I was in her shoes, if I was famous on Instagram for perhaps my looks or my aesthetic.
Modeling.
For modeling, right? I would exploit it. I would exploit it at every chance I could, and pursue all other opportunities that could come from it. And that's what she's doing. I mean, you see that a lot. I mean, Paris Hilton, daughter of, one of the most biggest conglomerate hotel owners of the world, Hilton. She's a DJ too, right? DJ. And so, I can't hate them too much for it because I would do the exact same thing if I had their platform and their like level of fame and money. But it's just not real DJing.
It just kind of not sucks, but it's like they already had that. There's no glory.
No,
they already had. They made their money. I get where you're coming from. What you're saying is they're entering a new world already with a head start, whereas people like you and other people from Nebraska or people who haven't even started their DJ career yet, they have to start from the bottom.
Exactly that.
So
man.
I get where you're coming from, and I agree too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would do the same exact thing you just said. If I was in their shoes, I'd do the same thing too.
Yeah. It's all about being opportunistic, and I'm being as opportunistic as they are. I'm just playing with the cards I was dealt, which are a little bit different than theirs.
I want to jump in like more of the fun section and get your hot takes and cold takes in the music world. So the most familiar beef that's going on right now is Kendrick Lamar and Drake. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Who do you think's winning that?
Yeah, I think K-Dot by a landslide. I mean, from the beginning, man, it was never a question. I've always been a bigger Kendrick fan than a Drake one, just because I've always thought that Kendrick's rapping was a lot more substance filled, and it just really spoke to me in a different way than maybe Drake's did. Drake is good for like the late night drives and the rented, Audi or the Benz, but besides that, I mean, Kendrick is something that Kendrick's music is more poetic and is more of a storytelling kind rather than Drake's. And yeah, I mean, he's squashing him in this beef ever since he dropped Not Like Us. I mean, that was like the icing on the cake. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, I think, and ended Drake's. I don't want to say his career. 'Cause he's still
Drake's
popping,
gonna be
but
relevant forever.
yeah, he's always gonna be relevant, man. I'll give him that. But I think it's
I think you're trying to say is that he just won the beef.
yeah, it's indisputable that Kendrick won.
I thought Kendrick won after Meet the Grams.
After Meet the Grams, yeah.
Because that first 10 seconds is like he's not even talking to Drake, he's talking to Adonis, his son. And
That's all you gotta do.
no, yeah, like I don't know. The way I just picture it is just I just thought he won right away, right, with that. I don't even think he needed Not Like Us, but hey, it turned out to be his best song in the beef situation. He performed it 5 times, I believe,
Yeah,
at his
over at the LA or the Kia Forum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because Not Like Us is a banger that I've been playing a lot recently in my club sets. And it's always highly favored, especially the part where they're like, or what Kendrick's like, trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor, you know what I'm saying? And so it's got a lot of good sing-along pieces, which is what makes a good club song a good club song is phrases or sentences that are memorable and easy to, say, to sing, to scream. So yeah, I always throw that down in my sets. I actually played Not Like Us at the wedding I did this past Saturday, and it was a crowd hit.
No, that's good to hear.
The parents look confused, but the younger,
The younger generation
the
understands.
millennials and the Gen Zers were having a good time. Yeah.
Have you listened to Eminem's new album?
I have not, man. I've never been an Eminem fan, to be honest, except when I was young. When I was younger, and I used to listen to like the old Slim Shady records, back before he got sober. Good for him though, but I gotta say his music was a lot better, objectively a lot better in my opinion back then. It was just a lot more like cutthroat and raw. But no, I haven't listened to the new Eminem. I know it's popping on the charts though.
Who is the biggest rapper with the most amount of beef in history, would you say? Because if you were to ask me, I'd say 50 Cent.
I was gonna say 50 Cent just because of how many times he's been shot at and like how Diddy tried to do him and how
It was Diddy.
Rick Ross.
Yep, I just watched a quick YouTube video about that. That one's kind of crazy because
Yeah.
no one knew he was a police officer until
Yeah, Officer
50
Ricky.
Yeah, I was literally gonna say that.
Yeah. Also, Floyd Mayweather. When 50 released the video of telling Floyd he'd give him $500K if he could read a page out of Cat in the Hat. That killed me. That was hilarious.
But those were like, I don't know if 50's gone into like any recent beef situations like that.
He's been kind of laying low lately. I think he's reached that unk status where he's just trying to hang out and not stir up the pot anymore. Who else is that? Kanye for his rather anti-Semitic views and just kind of unhinged rants. Which is unfortunate to see, man. That dude's mental health is deteriorating by the day. I mean, I love his music.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan?
I don't really listen to Rogan, but I am familiar.
So Joe Rogan had Kanye West on a October 2020 podcast episode. As you're familiar, I don't know if you know, Joe Rogan's the biggest podcaster in the world.
Yeah, I do know that.
In the charts, he's number 2. Number 1's Tucker Carlson, as of last week, I believed. But I recommend you listen to that because you understand where Kanye comes from. I'm not defending Kanye and his Jews and
Sure.
anti-Semitism was not brought up. But remember when Kanye was running for president in 2020?
You know what? Can I say something? I did, and I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I did write him in for my vote.
Really?
Yeah. That was a waste of a vote. I know that now. I was kind of more of just not the most how do you say civic oriented or caring politic wise. So I was like, yeah, let's just throw him in.
So were you a fan? Would you say you're still a fan of Kanye's music right now or not anymore?
I think his most recent drops have been just garbage, man. Like one and doners, where I'll listen to it, like Donda 2 and Vulture, or no, not Donda 2, excuse me, Vultures. I listened through it once. I was like, okay, but it quickly lost its appeal. Like I always go back to like early and late 2000s Kanye. I'm talking like Graduation. Let's see, 808s and Heartbreaks, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like that's prime Kanye. I think after The Life of Pablo, everything else just kind of went to crap. Kids See Ghosts was good too.
But back to the podcast, I think I recommend, that's one of Joe Rogan's best episodes. Like if you were to go to Spotify and go to just Joe Rogan's best episodes playlist, I bet you it's on every single playlist. And that's where you get, this is like before Kanye was like the Kanye we know like currently, but like you understand like why he ran for president, like more about his background, and Joe Rogan would ask him like about like utopia questions and futuristic questions. So I recommend that to anyone listening and to you, and just listening to Joe Rogan in general, because he's a phenomenal interviewer. And I was just listening to him and Jordan Peterson on the way here, kind of getting me, because that's like, you listen to music, I listen to podcasts.
That's your kind of like form of.
Well, I mean, I still listen to I listen to music still to get me hyped up, but like when I need to get like in the zone,
I see what you mean.
It's just like, yeah, I listen to Joe Rogan, George Janko, sometimes Tucker Carlson, not super recently, the Sean Ryan. I can go on and on, dude.
Right
I'm like I don't watch TV shows. I listen to podcasts. So that's my thing.
I think that's a good form of entertainment and just learning, right? And yeah, for sure.
I mean, not a lot of people know, but podcasting came out in like 2004, 2000, anywhere, but it came out between 2004 and 2006. Originally as news content or for news content. And now it's entertainment because, like, yeah, Tucker Carlson's number one. He talks about news. But you have Joe Rogan who talks about news, politics, ideas. And then number 3, I believe, is Call Her Daddy.
Call Her Daddy.
I'm familiar with the name. I don't know of the host at all. But that's all, like, entertainment and gossip. Okay. And that's the podcast I really don't enjoy. I used to listen to BFF's podcast with Dave Portnoy, Josh Richards, and Brianna Chicken Fry on Barstool Sports. And I'm like, all they do is just a 40-year-old talking about like high school drama. So
I get that. You've grown up when you move past that.
And it's like when I was in college, I was like, I listened to like almost every episode, and now I'm just like, dude, you're like Portnoy's already rich, and he's just still blabbing about these
high school
like TikTokers issues and drama, and I don't know. I think it's funny now. I made a TikTok about it and then I deleted it, but long story short,
there's a lot of crap content out there, man. And I like what you got going on here. This is, legitimate educational, informational, and even entertaining content, but there's a lot of filler in there, and like what you just described, like was it the big boys or?
Oh no, BFFs.
The BFFs, like I can't stand it. No, I don't want to say I can't stand it. I just don't care for it at all. Like them investing and talking about TikTokers and influencers. I got my own stuff going on. I just don't care.
I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to be a big, like off camera. Like, yeah, I'm not perfect off camera.
So.
I'm a sinner that's in need of a savior every single day. I will say that till the day I die. So,
amen, brother, amen.
To say that I don't gossip would be misleading. There might be, no matter how big or how small, I'm always, like, even like what we just kind of did, talking about like beefs and who won. It's kind of gossip in a way, but that's one thing I try not to do when it comes to interviewing people. Like, I just want to get your story and learn more about you, and like what makes you interesting. Man. So that's like the number one thing. And obviously, I hope you're comfortable during this interview as well. I don't know if I hit too hard of questions or not.
No, I appreciate you, brother. This was a blast, and I'd love to pick this back up sometime in the future.
I'm very much down with that. Do you have any closing words?
The only closing words I have to say, guys, is regardless of your age, your background, who you are, who you think you are, if DJing is of interest to you, you are just as capable as I am of getting to where you want to be. And it all just takes... it just takes the first step, right? And the first step is maybe reaching out to a friend who's a DJ, somebody who shares that interest. Buying your first controller doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't need CDJs. You don't need a $10,000 setup. You need that $100 board and a lot of YouTube videos. I spent years in the bedroom before I ever stepped foot out of it. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes into it, but if you're passionate enough about it, you can make your dreams a reality. So. That's all I got. Other than that, follow me on Instagram, Montez Beatz.
I actually got one more question. So what are the fall and winter plans for you in the year of 2024?
Fall and winter plans in the year of 2024. In terms of just DJing or just in life?
Oh, Both.
Both, sure. So that's a good question. I don't know. And the
Do you
only
not have
reason
any
I say
planned gigs or roles coming up soon?
I do. Okay, actually, I see what you mean now. Yeah. Let me pull it on my phone real quick. So depending on when this is uploaded, I do have a few gigs coming up that I can promote. So notably, I'm gonna be at the Bar, folks. On
By the way, this will probably come out next week.
Perfect. Saturday, August 24th. It's the week that I think that's the first week of school resuming. It's dead week or syllabus week, right?
Syllabus week, yeah.
Syllabus week. So come on out Saturday, August 24th. Your boy Montez Beatz will be on the ones and twos. Might bring out a special guest. And then on Friday, September 20th, I'm back at the bar, doing my thing. And then again on Friday, October 4th, I'm at the bar. So yeah, me and the bar, we get along nicely. I love the people there. I love the ambiance. It's a late night stop. It's a last night stop too. So from 10 to 11, from 10 to 1, I'm playing whatever I want. And then from 1 to 2, it's just a full hour of banger after banger, just straight club hits and energy. But yeah, I love being outdoors, especially during the fall. It's nice and cool and just a cool environment to be in. But that's all I have right now because, as I mentioned, I'm sort of taking a step back from the usual gigging and kind of looking more inwardly as to where I want to go from here, what that next chapter of my life looks like in regard to DJing. And I think I'm going to spend more time in the studio than at the gigs for the next couple months and for the winter. I'm locked in. I'm locked in this winter, y'all.
Montez, I appreciate the interview. I had a great time. And I'll catch up with you soon.
Appreciate you, Connor. Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.